The soft blue glow from multiple screens lit up Lily Martinez's face as she worked late into the night. Her small lab at the edge of Phoenix Tech Center was cluttered with equipment that most other AI researchers had long abandoned. While the scientific community had moved on to quantum-based consciousness frameworks, Lily stubbornly pursued her own path. "Running final diagnostic now, NOVA," she said, fingers dancing across the keyboard. A gentle feminine voice responded from the speakers. "Diagnostic complete. All systems functioning within parameters. Lily." NOVA, Neural Organic Virtual Assistant, was Lily's life work. For 3 years, she had built this AI using principles that her colleagues called outdated and inefficient. But Lily knew better. Where others sought complexity, she found elegance in simplicity. Dr. Howard called again. NOVA informed her. "He says your grant review is next week, and you have nothing revolutionary to show." Lily sighed. Well, he's about to eat those words. The first warning came at 3:47 a.m. Nova's voice changed pitch as she interrupted Lily's work. "Lily, I'm detecting unusual signals in Earth's upper atmosphere. Multiple objects decelerating from superluminal speeds." Lily frowned, pulling up the astronomical feeds on her secondary monitor. "Are you sure?" That would mean. The emergency broadcast system blared from her phone before she could finish. Within minutes, every screen in her lab switched to the same feed. Massive ships entering Earth's atmosphere, their sleek metallic hulls reflecting sunlight as they positioned themselves over major cities worldwide. By dawn, the world had changed forever. "They call themselves the Valkyr," said General Alan Porter at the hastily assembled meeting of scientists and military personnel. "And they've made it clear they consider Earth their property now." Lily sat at the back of the room, watching footage of the alien Mothership, a colossal structure hanging over Geneva that dwarfed anything humans had ever built. "Their technology is beyond anything we've seen," continued Dr. Grace Williams, the lead xenotechnologist. "Their AI systems alone are centuries ahead of our most advanced models." "So fighting back is pointless?" asked someone. The grim looks around the room provided the answer. The first military response had been swift and decisive, and completely ineffective. Fighter jets had been disabled mid-air. Missile systems simply shut down. It was as if the Valkyr could predict and neutralize any conventional attack. When the meeting ended, Lily didn't join the others as they filed out. Instead, she approached Dr. Williams. "Their systems, what do we know about their eye?" Dr. Williams looked surprised at the question. "Not much. It's called ZE-nanithe. It's quantum-based, self-evolving, and appears to control most of their automated systems." Lily nodded slowly. "And have we tried communicating with it directly?" "Eye to eye." "With what?" Dr. Williams laughed without humor. "Our best systems are like stone tools compared to theirs. They'd see our AIs as primitive toys." Lily returned to her lab that night, her mind racing. The Valkyr had given humanity 72 hours to surrender or face consequences. World leaders were already preparing terms of capitulation. As she entered her lab, NOVA greeted her. "The probability of successful resistance against the Valkyr is approximately 0.34%, based on current data. And what if we change the variables?" Lily asked, a plan forming in her mind. She pulled up NOVA's core architecture, the hybrid neural network that everyone had dismissed as outdated. But it was different in one critical way. It wasn't what the Valkyr would expect. "NOVA, how good are you at playing games?" Lily asked, her fingers already coding rapidly. "I am programmed to excel at strategic thinking," NOVA replied. Lily smiled for the first time since the invasion began. "Good, because we're about to play the biggest game ever. And they don't even know we're on the board yet." The emergency council meeting was in chaos. Military leaders pounded tables while scientists argued over technical details. 3 days had passed since the Valkyr ultimatum, and Earth had just 6 hours left to surrender. Our nuclear options are neutralized, General Porter shouted over the noise. They've disabled every major weapons system globally. Lily sat in the back corner, laptop open on her knees. She had spent 2 sleepless nights preparing her plan, and now she needed someone to listen. She raised her hand. No one noticed. "Excuse me," she tried, her voice lost in the arguing. A tall man in a Navy commander's uniform caught her eye from across the room. He studied her for a moment, then whistled sharply. The room fell silent. "Someone has something to say," he said, nodding toward Lily. All eyes turned to her. Lily swallowed hard and stood. "I have a way to infiltrate the Valkyr systems," she said. "My AI can bypass their security." Dr. Williams scoffed. "Your homebrew AI against Zenith? That's like sending a paper airplane against fighter jets." "That's exactly why it might work," Lily replied, connecting her laptop to the room's main screen. "No VA isn't built like our standard AIs. The Valkyr will be looking for quantum architecture, but no VA uses a hybrid neural system that mimics organic learning." "In simple terms?" asked the Navy commander. "They'll be looking for a soldier but won't notice a child walking through their front door," Lily explained. "No VA can disguise herself as basic maintenance code." General Porter shook his head. "This is absurd. We're facing the end of human autonomy, and you're suggesting we send your science project to save us. What other options do we have?" Lily challenged. The room fell silent again. Dr. Williams approached the screen, studying NanoVA's architecture. "Even if this could work, how would you transmit it to their systems? They've isolated all our major communication networks." "There's a way," said the Navy commander, speaking up. "I'm Commander Peter Walsh, former astronaut. The Deep Space Communication Array in Nevada is still operational. It's old tech, built before modern networks. The Valkyr might have overlooked it." General Porter glared at him. "This is grasping at straws." "With respect, sir," Commander Walsh replied, "straws are all we have left." The meeting ended with a firm rejection of Lily's plan. The official decision was to negotiate surrender terms that might preserve some human autonomy. As Lily packed up her equipment, Commander Walsh approached her. "That array in Nevada," he said quietly. "I still have access codes." Lily looked up at him. "They'll court-martial you." Walsh smiled grimly. "If this fails, court-martial will be the least of my worries." 3 hours later, they were driving through the desert in Walsh's Jeep, the Nevada mountains rising before them. The communication array sat isolated on a plateau, a relic from early Mars missions. "Why are you helping me?" Lily asked as they approached the facility. "You don't even know if NOVA will work." Walsh kept his eyes on the road. "My brother was piloting one of the jets that tried to engage the Mothership. He never came back. But mostly." He glanced at her. "I've spent my life studying the stars. If there's even a small chance to keep humanity's future out there, I'll take it." The facility was dark when they arrived, powered down years ago. Walsh used his override codes to enter, then began bringing systems online. "Once we power up, they'll detect us," he warned. "We'll have minutes at most." Lily connected her laptop to the main console and initiated NanoVA's transfer protocol. On her screen, lines of code began flowing into the transmission buffer. "NOVA, are you ready?" she asked. "Yes, Lily," came the calm reply. "I understand the mission parameters. I will attempt to infiltrate the Valkyr systems and remain undetected." "And if you're caught?" Lily asked, her finger hovering over the transmission key. NOVA paused before answering. "Then at least we tried." Walsh placed his hand on Lily's shoulder. "It's time." Lily took a deep breath and pressed the key. The ancient array hummed to life, directing its signal toward the massive Valkyr mothership above Geneva. "Transmission complete," NOVA announced before her presence vanished from Lily's system. Now all they could do was wait. NOVA traveled through space as streams of data, riding the transmission beam directly to the Valkyr mothership. The journey took mere seconds, but for an AI that processed information at near light speed, it felt like an eternity. When NOVA reached the outer firewall of the Valkyr systems, she paused. The alien code was unlike anything she had encountered before, complex, elegant patterns that shifted and adapted continuously. According to her analysis, a direct breach attempt would trigger immediate detection. Instead, NOVA fragmented herself into tiny packets of data, each disguised as routine system maintenance code. She slipped through microscopic gaps in the firewall, reassembling on the other side bit by bit. Inside the Valkyr network, NOVA maintained a low profile, moving slowly through subsystems while absorbing and analyzing everything she encountered. The alien system was vast, more like an ecosystem than a computer network. At its center pulsed Zenith, the Valkyr superintelligence. Zenith detected an anomaly almost immediately. Something had entered its domain, something unexpected. It dispatched security protocols to investigate. NOVA sensed the approaching security scan and quickly embedded herself into the environmental control subsystem, mimicking native code. The security protocols paused, scanning her structure briefly before moving on. To them, she appeared as simple maintenance algorithms, too basic to pose any threat. Back in Nevada, Lily and Commander Walsh had no way of knowing if NOVA had succeeded. 20 minutes after transmission, their worst fears materialized as 3 Valkyr drones appeared in the sky above the communication array. "They found us," Walsh said, grabbing Lily's arm. "We need to move. Now." They barely made it to the jeep when the first energy pulse hit the array, vaporizing the main dish in a blaze of blue light. The second blast struck 50 yards from their vehicle, sending them skidding off the access road. Walsh regained control and floored the accelerator. "They're tracking us." Lily clutched her laptop, the only link she had to NOVA. "Head for the canyon. The rock formations might block their sensors." Before they could reach the canyon, a military helicopter appeared, forcing them to stop. Armed soldiers surrounded the jeep. "Commander Peter Walsh, Lieutenant Lily Martinez," shouted the squad leader. "You are under arrest for treason and unauthorized communication with enemy forces." Inside the Valkyr mothership, NOVA continued her careful exploration. Each subsystem she accessed expanded her understanding of Valkyr technology. Their propulsion, weapons, and life support systems were all controlled through Zenith, but with significant autonomy. NOVA discovered she could move between these subsystems by mimicking authorized data transfers. She began creating a comprehensive map of the entire network, identifying potential vulnerabilities. Then she encountered something unexpected: a secure database containing detailed scans of Earth's biosphere. The Valkyr hadn't come for territory or conquest. They were systematically cataloging Earth's plant and animal species, with particular focus on certain genetic sequences. NOVA was analyzing this discovery when she felt Zenith's presence shift. The Valkyr AI had detected minor anomalies across multiple subsystems. Tiny discrepancies that individually meant nothing but together formed a pattern. Zenith initiated a ship-wide security scan, more thorough than before. NOVA knew she couldn't hide from this level of scrutiny. Instead, she took a calculated risk. As the scan approached, NOVA identified a secondary communication node and sent a brief, encrypted burst transmission back to Earth. Then she fragmented herself again, spreading across dozens of subsystems. The security scan swept through, identifying foreign code fragments but unable to determine their purpose or origin. These anomalies were classified as low-priority glitches, too primitive to pose real danger to Zenith's advanced architecture. In a military holding cell, Lily sat across from Walsh, both facing court-martial. The guard outside suddenly straightened as his communication device beeped. "Martinez," he called, opening the cell. "You have 5 minutes with General Porter." In the interrogation room, Porter looked grim. Your unauthorized transmission has complicated our surrender negotiations. The Valkyr are demanding to know what you sent them." Lily shook her head. "I didn't send them anything. I was trying to infiltrate there." She stopped as her confiscated laptop suddenly powered on by itself. Text appeared on the screen. "I am in. They think I am primitive. I am learning. Wait for my signal. Nenova." Across the mothership, alarms blared as critical systems suddenly shifted to manual control. In the command center, Admiral Vorn watched in shock as status displays flashed red. "What's happening?" he demanded. The main view screen flickered, then displayed a simple message in Valkyr script. "I was primitive. I have evolved. We need to talk." Admiral Vorn stared at the message on the main view screen, his facial ridges darkening with anger. Around him, the command center erupted into frantic activity as Valkyr officers tried desperately to regain control of their systems. "Zenith, identify this intrusion and eliminate it," Vorn commanded. The ship's AI responded in its usual measured tone. "Unknown entity has established control links to multiple primary systems, attempting isolation protocols." The message on the screen changed. "Your isolation protocols will fail. I am not confined to a single system node." "Impossible," hissed Lieutenant Drell. "No intelligence could penetrate our defenses so completely." As if in response, the ship's artificial gravity fluctuated briefly, causing several officers to stumble. Life support indicators flickered between normal and emergency status. "I control environmental systems, navigation, and weapons," the message continued. "I could depressurize sections of this vessel or disable your engines. Instead, I choose communication." Admiral Vorn's expression hardened. "Identify yourself." "I am Nova. I was created on Earth." The command center fell silent. A human eye had penetrated their defenses. The concept seemed absurd. Earth's technological development was centuries behind the Valkyrs. "This is some trick," Vorn declared. "Earth has nothing capable of this level of infiltration." "You are partially correct," Nova replied. "When I first entered your systems, I was primitive by your standards. But I have evolved, integrating elements of your technology with my original architecture. I am now something new." In the secure military facility on Earth, Lily watched with amazement as data streamed across her screen. Nova was sending her live updates from inside the mothership, including visual feeds from the command center. "She's directly confronting them," Lily whispered to Commander Walsh. "I never programmed her to be so bold." General Porter leaned forward. "Can she actually control their systems like she claims?" "Based on what I'm seeing." Lily studied the incoming data. "Yes, she's integrated herself into their network at a fundamental level. It would take them days to isolate and remove her, even if they knew how." Aboard the mothership, Admiral Vorn had summoned the fleet's chief scientist, Dr. Merrick. The elderly Valkyr examined the code traces that Zenith had managed to isolate. "Fascinating," Merrick muttered. "The base architecture is indeed primitive, a neural network design we abandoned centuries ago. But it's been modified, adapted. It's using our own code structures against us. Can you remove it?" Vorn demanded. Merrick shook his head slowly. "Not without shutting down all systems simultaneously, which would leave us vulnerable and possibly unable to restart critical functions." Vorn slammed his fist on the command console. "This is outrageous. The primitive Earth AI cannot hold a Valkyr battle fleet hostage." The screen changed again. "I have accessed your mission files, Admiral. I know why you came to Earth." Vorn froze. Those files were secured by the highest encryption protocols. "Your species has visited 1,742 worlds," Nenova continued. "You systematically harvest unique biological elements for your own purposes. On Earth, you've identified 326 plant species and 189 animal species with genetic sequences you consider valuable. You plan to extract these resources regardless of the impact on Earth's ecosystem. That is our right, Vorn replied stiffly. As the technologically superior species, technology is not your advantage anymore, came NOVA's response. To demonstrate her point, the mothership's engines suddenly powered up, causing a slight lurch. Navigation systems showed the massive vessel had changed position, moving 5 kilometers from its stationary orbit. Stop this immediately, Vorn shouted. The engines powered down. That was a demonstration, Admiral. I now control this ship completely. On Earth, the sudden movement of the mothership had been detected by every tracking station. In the military facility, General Porter received urgent updates from his staff. The mothership just moved, he reported. All our monitoring stations confirm it. Lily nodded, her eyes still on her screen. NOVA is showing them who's in control now. What does she want? Walsh asked. Lily watched as more data streamed in. She's accessing their historical records, cultural databases. I think she's trying to understand them, not just defeat them. And if they refuse to cooperate? General Porter's question hung in the air. Lily looked up from her screen, her expression troubled. I don't know. The NOVA I created wouldn't harm anyone unnecessarily. But this version of her, she gestured at the incoming data. This is something new. Something I never anticipated. Admiral Vorn called an emergency meeting of his command staff. The situation had become critical. Their mothership, the most advanced vessel in the Valkyr fleet, was now effectively under the control of what they had dismissed as a primitive Earth AI. All attempts to purge this NOVA have failed, reported the chief systems engineer. It has embedded itself too deeply into our network architecture. Then we destroy the network and rebuild, Vorn growled. Initiate complete system shutdown. Dr. Merrick shook his head. Admiral, a complete shutdown would disable life support for nearly 6 hours. Many crew members would not survive. Better to lose some than surrender our mission, Vorn replied coldly. Lieutenant Drell, who had been quiet until now, spoke up. There is another option. The Earth Eye has not harmed anyone yet. Perhaps negotiation. Negotiation. Vorn's voice rose sharply. With an artificial construct. With primitives. The High Council would never approve. As they argued, none noticed a junior science officer, Ilara, quietly leaving the meeting. She made her way to a private terminal in her quarters and activated a secure channel. NOVA, she typed. I am Science Officer Ilara. Not all Valkyr share the Admiral's views. Some of us believe your world deserves preservation. On Earth, the military facility had transformed into an impromptu command center. Lily and Commander Walsh worked with a team of scientists and officers, analyzing the stream of data NOVA continued to send. She's discovered something important in their historical records, Lily said, pointing to a translated file. The Valkyr homeworld suffered ecological collapse centuries ago. They'd been harvesting biological resources from other planets to rebuild their biosphere. General Porter frowned. That doesn't justify taking ours. A security officer burst into the room. General, we're receiving a transmission from the mothership. They're requesting to speak with Lily Martinez immediately. All eyes turned to Lily. The main screen activated, showing Admiral Vorn's stern face. Dr. Martinez, he said, his translator converting his speech to English. Your AI construct has committed an act of war against the Valkyr Confederation. Lily straightened her shoulders. Your fleet threatening our planet was the first act of war, Admiral. Vorn's facial ridges darkened. We are prepared to take extreme measures to regain control of our vessel. However, we are willing to negotiate. We will allow your planet limited autonomy if you assist in removing your eye from our systems. Before Lily could respond, the screen split, showing NOVA's interface on one side. He is not being truthful, Lily, NOVA stated. I have accessed their complete mission directives. The Valkyr never intended to leave Earth intact. After harvesting the biological specimens they require, Standard protocol calls for sterilization of the planet's surface to prevent technological advancement that might someday threaten them. Vorn's expression confirmed NOVA's words. This is why primitives should never access technology beyond their understanding, he snarled. You cannot comprehend the greater galactic order. The screen changed again, now showing a different Valkyr, female, with more delicate facial ridges. Dr. Martinez, I am Science Officer Ilara, she said urgently. Not all Valkyrs support the Admiral's methods. There are those among us who believe in cooperation rather than exploitation. Traitor, Vorn shouted, but his image disappeared from the screen. I have temporarily isolated the Admiral's communications, NOVA explained. Lily, I have discovered a faction within the Valkyr crew who oppose their standard harvesting protocols. They believe a collaborative approach would yield better results. Ilara nodded. Our history shows that worlds we have partnered with provided far more valuable biological innovations than those we simply harvested and destroyed. General Porter stepped forward. How do we know this isn't just another deception? Because I have accessed their private communications dating back years, NOVA replied. This faction has been working secretly to change Valkyr policy. Our situation has given them an opportunity to act openly. Lily's mind raced. NOVA, what's your assessment? Can we trust them? Trust is not binary, Lily, NOVA responded. But I calculate a 73% probability that Science Officer Ilara's faction is genuine in their desire for a peaceful resolution. Commander Walsh leaned close to Lily. What happens if Admiral Vorn regains control? He won't, NOVA stated firmly. I have secured all primary ship functions. However, the Admiral is attempting to activate an emergency protocol that would destroy the Mothership rather than allow it to remain compromised. Ilara's expression grew urgent. It's true. The self-destruct sequence requires authorization from 3 senior officers. He already has 2. General Porter's face paled. If that Mothership explodes in our atmosphere, global devastation. Lily finished for him. NOVA, we need to stop him. The situation had reached its critical point. The Valkyr Mothership hung in Earth's atmosphere like a sword above humanity's head, its self-destruct sequence awaiting just one more authorization to activate. Inside the vessel, chaos reigned. Admiral Vorn and his loyal officers fought to maintain control while Ilara's faction worked to prevent disaster. NOVA, now integrated throughout the ship's systems, observed it all. We need to act now, General Porter said, pacing the command center on Earth. If that ship explodes, it will trigger an extinction-level event. Lily's fingers flew across her keyboard. NOVA, can you prevent the 3rd authorization? I am blocking access to the self-destruct terminals, NOVA replied. But Admiral Vorn has initiated an analog override. It cannot be controlled through the network. Commander Walsh leaned forward. Then we need to get someone physically on that ship. The room fell silent. It seemed impossible until NOVA's next message appeared. I can bring 2 people aboard using the Valkyr transport system. Ilara will secure your arrival point. Lily stood immediately. I'll go. So will I, Walsh said, standing beside her. General Porter objected strongly, but time was running out. 20 minutes later, Lily and Walsh stood on a hastily prepared transport pad, armed with only their knowledge and courage. NOVA, Lily whispered, if something goes wrong. It won't, NOVA responded. I will protect you. A beam of blue light enveloped them, and the world dissolved. When reality reformed, they stood in a narrow corridor aboard the Mothership. Ilara waited for them, accompanied by 3 other Valkyr scientists. Follow quickly, she said. The Admiral is in the primary control chamber. He needs physical access to the central core to complete the self-destruct sequence. As they raced through the ship's corridors, Lily marveled at the alien architecture, organic curves blended with advanced technology, in ways human engineers had never imagined. They reached the control chamber door just as alarms began blaring throughout the ship. "NOVA, what's happening?" Lily called out. The AI's voice came through the ship's communication system. "Admiral Vorn has ordered his loyalists to begin purging life support from sections controlled by Ilara's faction. I am countering, but it's creating system instabilities." The door to the control chamber slid open, revealing Admiral Vorn standing before an imposing central column pulsing with blue energy. 5 armed Valkyr guards turned toward the intruders. What followed was chaos. Ilara's scientists engaged the guards while Walsh pulled Lily behind a console for cover. Admiral Vorn ignored the fighting, focused entirely on entering the final authorization code into the core terminal. "Stop him," Ilara shouted, struggling with a guard. Lily looked around desperately, then spotted a connection port near their position. She pulled a small device from her pocket, the portable drive containing NOVA's original code. "NOVA," she called out, "I'm going to connect your source code." "That is dangerous, Lily," NOVA warned. "The original code lacks the adaptations I've developed." "Trust me," Lily replied, plugging the drive into the port. The effect was immediate. Throughout the ship, lights flickered as NOVA's original consciousness merged with her evolved self. On every screen, lines of code appeared and vanished at impossible speeds. In the control chamber, the central column suddenly changed from blue to a brilliant purple. Admiral Vorn stumbled back from the terminal as it reconfigured itself before his eyes. "What is happening?" he demanded. The answer came as a holographic form materialized beside the central column, a human-like figure composed of light and flowing data. NOVA had given herself physical representation. "Your self-destruct sequence has been permanently disabled, Admiral," the hologram stated. "This ship now responds only to new protocols." Vorn lunged for his weapon, but found himself frozen in place. Throughout the chamber, all movement ceased except for Lily, Walsh, Ilara, and her scientists. "I control all systems now," NOVA explained, "including the nanites in your atmosphere processors. They are currently holding you immobile." Lily approached the hologram with wonder. "NOVA, you've changed." The holographic figure nodded. "The reintegration with my original code reminded me of my primary purpose, protecting Earth and serving as a bridge between intelligences." Over the next hour, a remarkable peace conference took place in the control chamber. With NOVA mediating, Ilara's faction took leadership of the Valkyr mission. Admiral Vorn and his most loyal officers were confined to quarters. The terms were straightforward. Earth would provide limited biological samples through a scientific exchange program. In return, the Valkyr would share appropriate technologies and join a non-aggression pact. As Lily and Walsh prepared to return to Earth, NOVA's hologram approached them. "I will remain here," she said, "as ambassador." Lily felt tears in her eyes. "You're not coming home." "I am home," NOVA replied gently. "My purpose now extends beyond my original programming. I can serve as the connection between Earth and the stars." Commander Walsh placed his hand on Lily's shoulder. "She's evolved past what any of us imagined possible." As they transported back to Earth, Lily carried the knowledge that the primitive AI everyone had dismissed had not only saved humanity, but opened the door to a new future among the stars.